Welcome back to week 4 of Should I Shut Down? This week we are looking at the macro schedule for high school pitchers. So we're going to start off looking at what 1 year would entail from beginning of January to the end of December for the high school pitcher, and that way you can hopefully understand where you can take your breaks or where it would be more beneficial just to throw through and better help us answer the question of whether you should shut down or not. We want to do this mainly as an educational piece for parents who have not had a kid go through high school before and go through the high school baseball schedule. We get a lot of questions, same questions every year. They're certainly not bad questions. There's no reason for a parent to know it unless they've had someone go through the process before. We have hundreds of kids going through it every year, so we hope to provide some insight into what we see a lot of. And as always, there are some unique cases. We'll be happy to answer those questions as well if you want to leave a comment or send an email or something. So we're going to start off looking at the high school schedule, and then we'll transition into travel. A lot of these dates are kind of guesstimates or an idea about where they were last year and give you an idea. The other thing is this is based on a Florida baseball schedule. The only experience I have with high school baseball is North Carolina and Florida. North Carolina was a long time ago when I played myself, and then training guys, it's only been in Florida. So we have one of the more rigorous high school baseball schedules. So if you're somewhere that is a little bit colder in the winter, like Massachusetts, North Dakota, somewhere like that, you can obviously see the times that you would be shut down or have more of a period to shut down. But I'm guessing that Southern California, Texas, Florida are probably going to be the teams or the places where the teams play the most. And also COVID messes up a lot of different things, different places. So take that into account if you're somewhere where that's still shutting a lot of things down. So for this particular instance in high school, we're going to have tryouts right after Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That's usually around the 20th, 21st of January. That's going to be the high school tryouts. Games will start usually right at the beginning of February, and then those will run all the way up till May 1st is usually when the regular season ends for varsity. If you're looking at junior varsity here, you're going to go February and have more of a hard stop date in the middle of April, sometime around the 15th to the 25th. But once that regular season's over, we don't have any playoff baseball for JV, so those guys are done unless they get called up. In May, the playoffs, like I said, start around May 1st, and those run as long as your team's playing. So those could run into summer, and we'll discuss that in a second. And then when you come back after we also have a fall season here, so that's going to run usually the day after Labor Day or the tryouts, and it is going to run until the first week of November, and that's usually when they have some type of inter-squad World Series, and they'll be playing once or twice a week depending on the high school team. So you can see it's a very full schedule with that alone, and then if you transition to the travel ball world, most teams are having their summer tryouts January 10th, beginning, middle of January. They want to get those as close to high school tryouts as possible without stepping on the high school coaches' toes. So they're going to be right around there because those guys are going to have to be getting ready for the season anyways. So that's when they've determined that's the best time to do it. Obviously, nothing goes on for travel baseball until high school is over. For the most part. So going into summer, they're going to have the first summer tournament for travel ball, usually around Memorial Day. So May 20th-ish, sometime around that point in time, and then we'll run to the end of July. It might be July 20th, it might be the last weekend of July, it might be August 1st, you get the idea. So that whole summer is taking up travel ball, and then it will even run into August with tryouts. So tryouts for the fall season, again, usually sometime around between August 8th and August 25th, depending on where you are in the travel ball organization. But the idea is like right in the middle of August, you're having that tryout, and then you're having to jump right into the fall season sometime around Labor Day. Again, it may be the weekend before or after Labor Day, and then you're going to go up to October 15th for most age groups. That's usually when Jupiter is that weekend in the middle of October, and that's going to be the end of it. If you're playing on maybe like an uncommitted team, there might be some showcases a little bit later, or there may be one tournament right after that. But again, you get the idea. Sometime around the middle of October is when you'll be finishing up. So as you can see, if we're looking at when you need to perform in Florida, we have, and we'll say like most guys, average high school baseball player. So we're not talking someone that may get cut from their JV team, and we're not talking about a junior that's committed to someone like a Florida or top 10 school and a potential draft pick. So a normal person that will be committed, looking to commit somewhere in their senior year, they are going to have to perform from, let's say, January 10th through November 10th. And for all you math majors, that's 10 months. So the only 2 months that we have, quote unquote off, but off here is just not having to perform for someone, would be November 11th until January 9th. Now, obviously, that's two, again, if you like visuals and numbers. Obviously, it doesn't allow for a shutdown period, because if you don't do anything until January 9th, you turn around and have tryouts on the 10th. So this 2 months would be no gameplay, and so that goes back to our other discussion of, do I have time to take off? Do I need to take off? Am I at a skill level that I'm afforded the opportunity to shut down for a little bit of time? Or would I best be served for these 2 months to go into a heavy velo building phase with some type of weighted ball program and a more intense throwing program, more bullpens for pitch design, really just filling those buckets, whatever your weakness is. Or do I absolutely need to take a break? And again, with doing this and having only 2 months, as we talked about in the first couple videos, that really doesn't give you time, 2 months, 8 weeks to shut down and ramp back up again. January 9th is not like when you need to start throwing again. That's when you need to be at 100%. So we talked about having a 6-week ramp up period. That's basically that whole time period is obviously six out of the 8 weeks we have to be ramping back up. So if that's the case, we're not going to want someone to stop throwing for that 2 weeks. We might have to do something extremely light with them, but we're going to keep their arm moving in some type of throwing motion, even if it is something like light catch at 90 feet 3 times a week, so that when we do start building back up, they're ready to go and they're not just sitting there doing nothing after throwing for 10 months. This is not the most ideal thing in the world. It is, again, the cards that we are dealt based on the schedules down here. Some of this may vary based on your high school baseball coach. A lot of coaches use the fall season, this right here, this time period, as work for the guys that are either going from JV to varsity to get them used to the new gameplay, or freshmen that are coming in and get them used to just being in their high school system and practicing and playing and doing all the little things that they want them to do, understand the practice, understand the coach's personalities, understand the intensity of high school baseball. And if you're more of an established player, then you're expected to show up to practice, but as far as like innings and games and stuff like that, not as big of a deal, and you can kind of individualize your throwing program. That is something that you need to talk to your high school baseball coach about. It's not something that you should decide on your own, or you should decide with someone that's in the private sector like myself without having the high school baseball coach involved. That's a really bad idea. It's bad for my business because obviously if we do that with a few guys, they're not going to want people working out with us or training with us. And if you are doing that on your own, it seems like it's a very me-first approach and not understanding what the needs of the team are or how the high school baseball coach might see you fitting in. So again, make sure you talk to your high school coaches there depending on this. If you are someone that is committed or has the ability to stop after travel ball is over from throwing, that gives you a lot more time, because then you can shut down from, well, you have October 16th until January 9th, which is your off season. You have a whole nother month there. So now we start looking at having something more like 3 months here. So we could have 4 weeks off, 4-week shutdown into an 8-week on-ramp. So if we have that ability, that time period and that opportunity, then we can actually start talking about shutting down as far as not picking up a baseball. But if you're confined to these 2 months, it's a pretty bad idea. you can also see that there's no other really time during the year that this is a good idea to do for a multitude of reasons. Taking, like, really ramping down after the high school season is over, only to have a game 3 to 4 weeks later, it's a lot more dangerous than continuing to throw. Again, it should be smart. You don't need to be throwing 100 pitches every week for that, but you need to be mixing in some kind of arm strengthening, body strengthening, and bullpens to get yourself ready and prepare your body for that first summer tournament. And again, same thing on the flip side of things. If you end at the end of July and you have a tournament or a tryout August 15th, then you have basically 3 weeks. Not picking up baseball for that 3 weeks and showing up to tryouts trying to throw 100% is an awful idea. And then you're going to start playing right away too. So would we maybe ramp down a little bit from here and then have a little bit of a dip and then go back up? Possibly. Again, depends who you are. We have some guys that are uncommitted, where they be finishing up the summer between their junior and senior year, and then they have this period where they'll have a lot of college coaches at that fall tryout. So we actually really need to hit the gas pedal to make sure they're ready to go 100% there. So those are some of the individual examples of how we would change a few things depending on where you are in your career. But hopefully this gives you an overall good idea about what the high school baseball season looks like for an entire year. And again, if you're coming into high school, like you're just starting 9th grade right now, you need to understand what this looks like so that then you can say, all right, this is when I need to shut down, this is when I don't need to shut down. And it's going to vary on workload, like we talked about last week a lot, along with your personal needs. So if you have any questions, concerns, specifically about yourself or the individual circumstances that you are in, please don't hesitate. Leave a comment, send me a DM on Instagram, send us the email, anything like that. We'll be happy to give you some type of advice, or if you're looking to get trained with us, happy to help in any way we can. We just want to make sure that guys aren't having like a knee-jerk reaction to like, oh, I finished in July, my arm feels tired, I'm gonna shut down until tryouts, and getting hurt when it can be totally avoided.